Hey Dave.
Hey Doug, how are you?
And so Dave Feldman, we have you on the show finally. We've been trying to get our schedules to sync up for the longest time. So for those of you who don't know Dave Feldman, he is I met him for the first time at our first event in 2016 in San Diego, and he had this laptop on his arm and he was walking around. I thought he was a crackpot. He was walking around like telling everybody, like, pointing to this, all the graphs he had of all this testing that he'd been doing on himself. And I was just saying, like, wow, you've come such a long way since then. Now you're kind of the guy that's turning the cholesterol myth on its head. So kudos to you for that. I'm also really, really excited about, what the reason that we kind of got you on here now is that we've been able to put together something that's allowing us to have our attendees have a very comprehensive blood panel done. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, this is actually something I'm pretty excited about. In fact, I'm not sure if at least with a low carb conference, this has never really been done before. But we're collecting blood basically people can have their blood drawn and analyzed through the lab. And we've got a decent test. Many of these tests are the same ones that you've seen myself and many of the other speakers talk about that you can't always necessarily get as easily. And that's kind of a big deal because we're definitely very interested in what the data is within the existing low-carb community, not just on the aggregate level, but that we would like individuals to have for their own knowledge. I mean, a good example, of course, is insulin and glucagon. You can't typically get that as easily, and that's something that I think a lot of people would benefit from knowing. Same thing with things like ApoA.
Right. So, I mean, when you say they can't get as easily, I mean, it's basically they can't get their doctor to prescribe those tests, basically, apart from the fact that they're really expensive.
Yeah, and in fairness to the doctors, I mean, sometimes they don't know if the insurance will cover it. Doctors are, of course, on the hook a lot of times for tests they've ordered if they don't know, exactly how to interpret it and so forth. So to be sure, this is uncommon, but in the United States especially, we usually have the means by which you can order it through a third-party vendor, like Request a Test or something along those lines, and basically get it done privately. That's not always the case for those people internationally.
So I believe you did some kind of research into what it would cost retail for this battery of tests, and maybe you can give people an idea of how much it would have cost them and what it's going to cost them.
Well, and that was part of the problem is usually if you try to get this through one of these third-party vendors, it's like closer, I want to say maybe 600, 700, something in that neighborhood. And we kind of have a little bit of a benefit in that we're going to be doing this both in bulk so that because there's so many people involved, we can get the price of, for example, the draw fee down because we'll actually have phlebotomists there who are able to turn it around. It's kind of like a drive in that regard that we're able to kind of keep costs down in that respect. But on top of that, I have some decent connections now in being able to hopefully get these prices down a bit more. And so it's running at about $250. In fact, I think that's what we've listed the price at, right, is $250.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it's an incredible deal. And I'm really excited that we are able to be the first to offer this kind of feature for the course attendees, and hopefully it'll become a de facto thing at all the events one day. But we can really say we were the first, so that's pretty cool.
Well, I do want to say that part of our drive for doing this is to collect more data for the benefit of the community. For everybody who gets this test, who orders it, it's something where we'll hope that they will opt in for allowing us to have their anonymized data added to the pool. And by anonymized, I mean their name and their city is excluded so that it can't be easily identified. But we would like to have a lot of anonymized records for the total pool to also be able to have some additional data once matched with a little bit of intake data. We want to get, for example, what diet they're on and how long they've been on it. Questions like that should only take about 5 minutes. But that would be of enormous benefit for the research of many people, like Ben Bickman and so forth, who definitely would benefit from having things like insulin and glucagon and LPA and all of these other things that I just mentioned that I think would be of enormous value, not just for the individual, but also for everybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, but for the individual themselves as well. I mean, most of us have never been able to either get the test done, or even if we couldn't afford them. I mean, I know I've never had my bloods done, so I'm going to be very excited to actually see that for myself as well.
You're going to jump in with us, right?
Oh, that's awesome, Dave. Thanks very much for helping us to get this in place, and the ongoing work that's going to be involved in actually making this happen, because believe me, it doesn't happen easily.
And thank you for making it available for us.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, all I'm doing is helping you provide a facility to do it, right? But and Kim Howerton is helping a lot with that as well. And shout out to her as well, because she's been doing a massive amount of work and will be doing a massive amount of work in the background to make sure that this actually happens.
We really couldn't do it without her, so I'm really glad she's on board.
Oh yeah, totally. So I'm looking forward to seeing both of you there and seeing this, how successful this is, and hopefully it can be a standing feature of all our future.
Thank you so much for having us.